So, what's your reaction to Reigns headlining Mania, Steve? Because that's the big story coming out of the show. And yes, Reigns held his own in this match, contributed to it. It was a really good match. He looks like he belongs in the ring with Lesnar. It doesn't look like, that he's just, tripping over his own feet or anything like that. But the rejection of him, I mean, when they introduced him and his music played, there were boos, and then suddenly you didn't hear any of the crowd because somebody turned down the dial. When he won, it didn't work. It didn't get over. And you could read it on Roman's face. I'm starting to feel sorry for him. I mean, he's not clicking in for the position that he's in. And I mean, we did tons of polls the last 24 hours at our website. One of them was, how do you react to what happened at Fastlane in the main event with Roman Reigns? And 88% voted for frustrated, confused, at a loss, and angry. And only 12% said some combination of satisfied, excited, or understanding. And I don't think that's entirely reflective of 100% of the audience, but I think it's a significant part of the WrestleMania audience. I don't think they're buying Roman as a babyface headed into that show, and they've done everything they can, and it's still not there. And you don't point at Roman and go, "Oh, he's dogging it," or it's his fault. But sometimes you're just not the right person for the right spot. And I just didn't see this as a step in the right direction. I think it's just treading water. Roman isn't being embraced by a huge part of the fan base as a guy who deserves a WrestleMania babyface headline spot.
Well, I got a lot of emails saying, we want to like Roman, but he needs to learn more moves, add more things to his repertoire. He's doing the same things over and over again. Well, I kind of did the same things over and over again, too.
Yeah.
Maybe I had one or two more tricks up my sleeve, but I was over, so there's a difference. He's still trying to get over.
It's not the number of moves. That's what people might think it is, and part of it is his Superman punch and yelling and spreading his arms before a spear feels very corporate, very prescribed, very video game. Like a video game guy come to life. I think that's symptomatic of the actual issue, which is he just hasn't connected with the crowd the way that top babyfaces do, like you did, like Hogan did, like Bret Hart in his own way did. He just isn't connecting with the crowd, and I think the limited moveset it just is the symptom of not connecting, because if he was over, the crowd would be eating up the few moves that he does.
Yeah, but to me, it's just like, Vince chose this guy, and he's sticking with him. And, whatever the fans think, whether it's the smart marks, the casual fans, or the fervent fans, I don't know. I just he's sticking with this guy, and I don't know.
Well, if you're angry as a fan, you have to also be sort of fascinated with how this journey ends or where it goes. I mean, yes, you'd rather have a WrestleMania main event you were as excited about as you were if you're, Attitude Era fan and you love Stone Cold Steve Austin. Well, this is great. I love wrestling. I love who's on top. But just as kind of from my seat and your seat, Steve, and I think a lot of fans, they follow wrestling. They're going to have great moments, but part of it is just in trying to figure out, and that's what that's what I do every day with my job, is try to understand why things are happening the way that they are, why the choices are being made, why the crowd is reacting the way that they are. And so in a way, as frustrating as it is to see Roman win, stepping back and having covered this industry for 28 years, this is one of Vince's big struggles. This is one of the fascinating things of, can Vince McMahon make this work, or will he, like he did with Lex Luger as a lead babyface, throw in the towel and go with somebody else, going, this isn't quite where it needs to be. So I'm fascinated by it. I'd rather have Roman just be over or have him pick somebody else who's over. But on another level, it really is fascinating to watch this play out for the next couple months.
Well, it's fascinating to watch it play out. It's also going to be fascinating to watch what happens, whatever the finish is in that match at WrestleMania 32 between him and Triple H, because I'm thinking for a match of this caliber or magnitude, because this is make or break time for the kid, so that's why I say magnitude, and he's on the biggest stage. You get in there with Triple H, mister, you're going to have a well-thought-out match that's going to take some time to build, and they will, and it's going to have a crescendo, and then it's going to explode, and we'll see what the explosion is. But Triple H is a hellacious worker, and he's going to put a lot of thought into what they do on April the 3rd, and so I think that it's going to require a career performance by Roman to do his end of, the reverse of what Triple H is going to do, because Triple H can go with anybody, and he's proved that time and time again. There'll be a lot of thought going into this match. It cannot be as simplistic as the Triple H Sting match. This has to be a game of chess, and it has to be physicality level to it. That's got to pay off for the fans. I mean, this is they've got to deliver. And then
Roman,
once they do deliver, it's going to be interesting to see what goes down.
you and Bret Hart had one of the great WrestleMania matches of all time, one of the great matches of all time, and you both were in your prime. Hunter is not in his prime. He's kind of in that Jericho boat. Smart worker doing what he can with older tools right now. Roman isn't in the league of you and Bret, but so in that sense, I'm not comparing the match. But in another sense, I am, because it could be a double turn. I mean, will Vince look at this as a chance to align Triple H's main roster character with the role he plays in NXT? As the guy who stands in the ring and people cheer him for bringing them a great product. And do you then slot Roman as a heel and go, well, if the fans are rejecting him, he's got all the motivation he needs to be a heel. And could they artfully do a double turn where they come out of Mania with Roman slotted perhaps the way he should be?
Well, I tell you what, that's an interesting thought. People were intrigued with some of your thoughts, matchups last week when we talked. So, man, if the babyface thing doesn't work, back to your point, he's not going to pick another guy because he's got so much invested in this guy.
Yeah.
But so he's got to keep riding him, but he could ride him in a different direction. Like you said, in the heel mode, but you can't back off the gas pedal. Babyface or heel, you've got to keep the pedal to the metal with this guy, because if you don't, he's going to become an also-ran immediately.
Yep. Oh, he'll be what Dolph Ziggler was. He had his chance at the top and he failed. You can only do that so much. But if Randy Orton comes back, whatever he's able to do the rest of his career with some chronic shoulder issues, if he can come back, be a babyface, he can be a guy who tries to take Roman down, but you give Roman a big win over a veteran guy who helps boost Roman's credibility, but you can get a good SummerSlam program out of that. John Cena comes back, does something else first, and then you build to Roman Cena. Maybe that's at SummerSlam or maybe WrestleMania next year. Cena's your babyface. You got AJ, you got Finn Balor. Heck, you got Samoa Joe in the pipeline who could be a babyface. Sami Zayn eventually. I mean, a Sami Zayn, scrappy underdog, Daniel Bryan-like babyface trying to unseat Roman Reigns. I just see 3 years of feuds already in my head with the roster that they have with Roman as a top heel. There's more for Roman. There's more for Roman as a heel against Cena, Orton, AJ, Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, and heck, Brock Lesnar again, and even an Undertaker match. You could do that at Mania next year, title versus retirement. I just think there's so many babyfaces lined up that fans will cheer against Roman Reigns and relish booing Roman against. That's where a lot of money is the next couple of years. I'm a huge fan of Roman Reigns as a heel.
And that's what's going to make it fun again, because everybody's going to be so on board with booing him.
Yep.
I'm telling you, once he goes through that process, whether it takes 1 year, 2 years, whatever, then they're going to end up loving the guy. But and he's going to have a monster run. It just has to happen. And, I don't know how long it's going to take for Vince to, I've predicted this all along. The kid's got to have a heel run before he's going to be universally loved, because that's just the way I see it. If Vince can get him over as a baby first, more power to him. I talk to Roman Reigns every time I go do a podcast. Dude's a great guy. Everybody on the roster supports that guy because he's a good dude. So everybody loves him. So whatever's happening ain't his fault. It's just his personality, his looks, the way he's been pushed. He's a tremendous cat. But sometimes these things, in the business of pro wrestling, you got to walk through that fire first, and I still think that's what he's going to have to do. But, hey, if Vince can get that kid over as a monster baby, more power to him, and swig a beer to Roman Reigns for doing so. But that remains to be seen.
And his body language is not where it needs to be. I mean, I mentioned this on Twitter last night. Roman coming out there to the booze last night on Sunday night reminded me of a goaltender down 6-0. Whose coach put him out there at the start of the third period anyway and didn't pull him. Like, why are you doing this to me? I'm down 6-0. I can't stop the puck from going in. Put the backup in. Let me regroup and come back another day. I think Roman's showing on his face that this isn't working, and it's embarrassing. I think he's got more pride and knows he's better than to be put in a position to be completely rejected by such a loud, significant part of the fan base month after month after month. And that's where, I think he'll have a lot to cling on to as a heel, that he can, blame the fans as a character, but I think that works. I don't think his body language is. I don't think he can continue on this path without something changing and having it work, because even he knows it's not working.
But it'll be interesting to see. I wonder if he has, sought out John Cena for any advice, because John Cena was in a similar position. The way crowds will cheer him or boo him, and as I always say, universally respect him.
Yeah.
But it's a different tone with Cena, because he lights up a building. When he gets in that ring, it's electric. Shit is on. So it's the same, but it's entirely different. But nonetheless, to me, I mean, he's really about the only guy that you can ask, dude, how do you cope with this?
And it is very different. And I think that, like embracing, it's like Cena again. We'll have, Roman sucks, let's go Roman. It's different. Cena was mega, mega, mega talented in a way that people hated with the whole Eminem, derivative Eminem rapping gimmick. Cena was quick-witted. He was quick on his feet from the beginning. He had that leadership quality. He owned an arena. Even if you hated him, he owned the space that he occupied.
Yep.
And Roman doesn't. And that's where it's different. Cena was a top star who fans didn't like. Roman isn't a top star who fans don't like, because he's not versatile enough to own the room when he walks in that ring. People look at him and they think, you were carried by Seth and Dean, and now you're the corporate choice. And part of it, too, is I think fans, Steve, see Roman as being Vince McMahon going, well, you didn't like Cena for 8 years, but we made a lot of money, so now we're just going to find another Cena. And I think fans are like, no, we were willing to put up with Cena, but we don't want to go through 8 more years of this. We want somebody we really, really like on top. So in a way, Roman's got a disadvantage that Cena didn't previously have. Although Cena had the disadvantage of following you and Rock, and that played into why he was rejected. I think Roman's getting rejected for a different reason.